Hello guys, you're most welcome to Yvonne Winfrey. So today in this video it's all about the classic princess DART dress. It's not a princess bustier, it's just a princess DART dress, or half top, and the bottom it's all about a half circle dress, and I won't be showing that because I have a video on how to cut a circle dress, so you can check it out. And you please kindly consider subscribing, like the video, share it with your friends, and let's get to the cutting table.
So guys, at the top here I have about half an inch as the joining allowance at the shoulder, and from that half an inch I'm going down by about 16 inches, and that will be my half length. So consider the seam allowances also and the joining allowances. The width is about 15 inches and I folded my fabric into two. So getting back at the top here, I'm marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7.5 inches plus half an inch joining allowance, which is 8. Then from that I go down by 8 inches, and that 8 inches is my armhole length. And then I have to make sure what I have along here is the same as the shoulder measurement, and that there is 8 inches, my armhole length. So from the top again I mark my bust line at 9 inches, and at the bottom I'll be marking my waistline. So that is my bust line at 9 inches. So at the bust line I can now mark my bust measurement divided by 4. So it is 36 divided by 4. I have 9 inches. So I'm not going to be considering the seam allowances yet, I'll be adding them later. So getting back at the armhole line or length, I'm slanting my shoulder by 1 inch, and then I mark out my neckline width at 4 inches, neckline depth at 5 inches. Then I carve out my neckline just like that. Then from where my neckline width ended, I join a line to the other 1 inch shoulder slant like that. Remember there is half an inch at the top for joining allowance, and after here I just add half an inch at the top there and connect it to where the neck width is, and that will be my joining allowance at the shoulder, guys. So that is it. So from there I go back to the armhole length or armhole line, and I mark the midpoint. From that midpoint I move in by half an inch so that I carve out my armhole. So this is what I am doing here. If you have your curve, your rulers, always include them. So I mark out my armhole curve up to the 9 inches of the there. Then after I get whatever measurement that I have along that armhole, the new armhole that we've carved out, and I mark out its midpoint. Now from that midpoint I go down by half an inch. This is where the gist is. I go down by 1 inch, 1 inch. So then I go to my bust line and I mark my nipple to nipple point divided by 2 plus half an inch. So the nipple to nipple point that I have is 7 inches divided by 2, I get 3.5 inches plus half an inch, I get 4 inches. So I mark the 4 inches at the waistline and even at the bust line, then I connect a line just like this. So that is the line, that is where I'm. So at the waistline here I mark 1 inch on both sides of that line that we've marked, and then I come at the bust line, I go down by 1 inch still. Remember that goes up to 1 inch below the bust line. So after I connect my dart lines just like that. So here I'm using 1 inch just because I want my top or my bust to be protruding very well, but if you don't want it to be so protruding, you mark half an inch. So again I go back to the armhole here, as you see, remember we came down by 1 inch, so I mark a line from that 1 inch we went down to the bust point. The bust point is at the bust line where we marked our bust, our nipple to nipple measurement. So guys, again I go back to that line that I marked from the armhole, and I mark 1 inch from the bust point, 1 inch upwards from the bust point. Then I connect my half inch dart lines to that 1 inch from the bust point. I hope you're understanding. Then afterwards I have to carve out those lines very neatly, because you know we don't want our bust point to be pointed. It has to be just pointed. So again, from this line that you see here, I have to move in or move out, as you're going to be seeing, by 1 inch. Why? It's just because since we've, you know, carved out all these points, now that our measurement has, you know, reduced, when we are sewing it, it will be we will have a shortage. So to avoid that shortage, I have to come out of that that line by 1 inch, and then I connect a new armhole curve into the shoulder, the bust, the bust line. So as I'm connecting it into the bust, I have to consider my seam allowances, you know, just like that. So after that, I just go to the bust line and the waistline, and I mark out my measurements plus all the dart allowances that we've used and the sewing allowances. So you get less than 4 inches, especially if you're going to use lining. So after all that, I can now cut out. Make sure at that point you just carve your lines. Don't consider a pointed bust, it has to just be carved. So this is what I'm doing. You have to consider all your lines, so just cut through just as I'm doing. The shoulder, our neckline, so that's the middle point part, and then the sides, then this armhole. So this is what I have for the front now. I hope you've gotten it. This is just a classic classic princess dart. It's not a princess bustier. So now we have to cut out the back. So we're just going to do the same as we did at the front. Mark out your shoulder measurement, go down by 8 inches of the armhole, then mark out your 8 inches of the armhole, bust line at 9 inches, and then connect a line just like that. Then mark out from we have some sewing allowance there, so from the sewing allowance I marked my neck width 4 inches as even as what I've marked even at the front. Then I have 1 inch at the neck depth, then a shoulder slant of 1 inch, then connect the points just as you mark your usual bodies. Add seam allowance at the shoulder line, the shoulder slant, connect the lines like that, then mark where the bust line is at 9 inches. Bust line is your bust measurement divided by 4. So remember, we are marking from the other 3/4 of an inch for zip allowance. So after that, just mark nipple to nipple measurement of 4 inches. Connect the lines from the bust point to the waistline, and at the armhole here I mark the middle, then connect a line from the armhole to the bust point. So for this back, I'm just going to use 1/2 an inch. I won't be using 1 inch as what I used for the front, so I'm using 1/2 an inch, since the back doesn't need that over protruding of the, you know, of the bust point or the bust line or of your bust. At the back there is no, you know, you don't have breasts at the back, so what for? So after, always remember at the princess that you have to increase that where pointed by 1 inch, just because you might come there might be a shortage when you're sewing. So after that, I just mark my waistline measurement, bust line measurement plus seam allowances. You have to make sure that seam allowances are included and all the excesses. So this is it, guys. After there, I just cut out. So for the back, it's just simple and cut out just like I'm doing. If you have your rulers, always use them, especially when you're, you know, marking such things as, you know, princess dart. So this is what I have for the back also. So you can go on and, you know, mark them, label them so that you don't mix them with the front. So for the back, from the center back here, I'm moving in by 1/2 inch, since a human you know, back is not straight, just as this cloth that I'm marking on. I have to move in by 1/2 inch and then connect it to my neck depth and then cut off that 1/2 inch, just like that, so that my back, my cloth or my dress, my top lies flat at the back. So now I also went ahead and cut some linings, just as you see, and I'll be sewing the linings separately from the main body. So guys, this is how I'm going to sew. I'll just take good sides facing each other, all right sides facing each other, and then sew along by 1/2 inch on both sides. And this is what I have after sewing, guys. This is what I've been telling you, because of the princess dart, the bust is protruding out, you know, very well, nicely, just like that. And this is the back. At the back, I've already even started joining the linings at the neckline, as you see, but this is how it looks like. It is flat, but at the front it is protruding out, you know, the bust area is protruding out. So that is it, guys. I'm just going to take these two pieces, finish everything together and join them, both front and back pieces, and I'll show you what I will come up with. Remember, right sides facing each other as you are sewing. So this is, guys, what I have now. This is the front, the inside, that is the lining, and this is the outside. So now what I have to do is to take this and finish my armhole, finish all the other finishings, and then at the bottom here I'll just add my circle skirt. As I told you, it is a half circle skirt, as you see in this picture. And to cut the circle skirt, you just divide your waist measurement by 3.14. that is a constant, and that's the dress I came up with, guys. So this is it. It is easy. If you have any comments, please comment below.